computer scientists in Michigan and other states are calling on the Clinton campaign to demand a recount of the votes in the swing states of Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. According to media reports this morning, the scientists think they have found evidence that shows voting totals in those three states were hacked or manipulated. The scientist, which includes the director of the University of Michigan Center for Computer Security and Society, tells the Clinton campaign there is a trend of Clinton doing poorly in counties that used electronic voting machines. Now, there were concerns leading up to the election about the possibility of computer hacking. Clinton's campaign has not responded to questions on whether they will request an audit. Some activists say if the Clinton camp is going to take action, they have to do it soon. The deadline to file for a recount in Wisconsin is Friday, Monday for Pennsylvania, and next Wednesday here in Michigan.
Now to a story that we're breaking right here at RT America. The Green Party has launched an intent to file for a recount of votes in battleground states of Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. The Stein and Baraka campaign is leading a multi-partisan effort to check the accuracy of the machine-counted votes in those states. Dr. Stein says it's in order to ensure the integrity of the elections. What is your campaign doing to raise the funds for this recount? Can you give us some of the groups that are supporting this recount?
So, this is sort of going out through a very diffuse grassroots network right now. And I couldn't even tell you all the groups, but I know that groups like Change.org and MoveOn.org have been very interested. But
moving to Iran, and the Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei has warned the United States that Tehran will definitely react if Washington renews sanctions on the country for a further 10 years. Khamenei said the nuclear deal must not be used to put pressure on his country. In another speech published on his website, Khamenei said the U.S. government breached the nuclear deal on many occasions, but did not elaborate.
Deputy Commander of Iran's Revolutionary Guards is calling for the annihilation of Israel and says that the country has over 100,000 missiles ready in Lebanon to destroy the Jewish state. Brigadier General Hossein Salami aired the threat on Iran's state-run television channel Irib TV in the beginning of July, but his comments have just been translated from Farsi by the Middle East Media Research Institute.
امروز به فضل الهی ظرفیت امحاق و محو و پروپاشی رژیم صهیونیستی بیش از هر زمان دیگری.
Lebanon is a base for the Hezbollah terrorist group and is a powerful Iranian proxy that's believed to have more than 100,000 missiles in its arsenals. Salami says those missiles will be used to serve Iranian interests by, quote, striking the heart of the Zionist regime.
فقط در لبنان بیش از 100,000 موشک قائم آماده پروازند تا هر زمان که اراده شود و مصلحت دیده شود و اگر رژیم صهیونیستی بخواهد با برآوردهای غلط دوباره به تکرار خطاهای گذشته دست بزند، این موشک‌ها سینه فضا را بشکافند و بر قلب رژیم صهیونیستی فرود آیند و مقدمات یک فروپاشی بزرگ را در عصر جدید فراهم آورند.
Salami is also claiming that Iran itself has tens of thousands of additional missiles that are ready to wipe Israel off the map.
President Obama has given the go-ahead to sell more than 100 Airbuses to Iran, the latest commercial activity with Iran since last year's controversial nuclear deal. President-elect Donald Trump has threatened to renegotiate the nuclear accord and to stop trade. Meanwhile, House Republican leaders are urging President Obama to stop taking any more actions with Iran that could reinforce the nuclear deal before he leaves office.
Begin tonight with the European Parliament's push to combat what it calls a propaganda war by Russia. The governing body passed a resolution to, quote, respond to information warfare against Russia. The resolution names RT and Sputnik specifically, putting both news agencies on par with terror groups like ISIS.
We are at war with Russia. We are on a collision course with each other, traveling faster than a jet fighter.
Russia has tried to damage the EU. The enemy is pushing his narrative hard.
The Kremlin wants to split Europe. It forces its information into our countries.
What the Russians and extremists don't like is freedom.
Russia and ISIS share the same aim. They're toxic.
The European Parliament voted in favour of a temporary freeze to EU membership talks with Turkey. Lawmakers cited, quote, the disproportionate and repressive measures taken by Ankara following July's failed coup. Now, Turkey first began EU accession talks in 2005. The vote is non-binding and EU governments have yet to react to the motion. However, the move's likely to deepen the rift between Turkey and the bloc. Yesterday, ahead of the voting, Turkish President Erdogan said that whatever the outcome, it would count for nothing.
Military cooperation between Russia and China is not directed against other states and in no way should be named a threat, claims Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu. He's arrived in China to discuss security issues as well as prospects for military cooperation with Beijing.
We're here in Beijing, where Russia's Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu is on a quick but quite an eventful visit. Russia and China do have quite a saturated relationship, including military cooperation. And Mr. Shoigu said that global security is among the key issues discussed, including, of course, the conflict in Syria. Now, this relationship between Moscow and Beijing perhaps is now attracting new players such as Turkey, because we've heard from President Erdogan, who said he's looking into joining a Chinese-Russian-led political, economic and military alliance known as the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, perhaps as an alternative to Turkey joining the European Union. It's been looking at joining the EU since 1963, but frankly hasn't been very welcome. Many analysts are saying that if Turkey was to join the SCO, it would be a massive U-turn in its relationship with the West, including the United States, including the EU, which paid Ankara 3 billion euros for its assistance to help resolve the refugee crisis, and of course in its relationship with NATO. It seems many Western powers are closely watching Ankara's moves right now, because for them, losing that partner will not only mean losing the second largest military NATO power, but also one of the most important players in the region.
The U.S. military presence in the Asia-Pacific is growing, according to a report released by China's National Institute for South China Sea Studies. The trend is not going to change anytime soon. The report shows that since the Obama administration took office in 2009, the U.S. military has been shifting its focus and giving priority to the region. By 2015, the U.S. had 368,000 military personnel there. That's more than half of total U.S. troops overseas. 97,000 are stationed to the west of the international date line. The U.S. Department of Defense released a proposed budget request for $583 billion next year, almost the same as this year. The activities of the U.S. military have also been increasing and upgrading. The report says this literally makes China the #1 target for U.S. close reconnaissance in terms of frequency, scope and means.
Now, Pakistan's Air Force chief has warned India that worsening tension over the disputed Kashmir region could escalate into a full-scale war. Marshal Sohail Aman urged India to show restraint and added that Pakistani troops know how to deal with New Delhi if it intensifies the conflict. The warning comes as tensions are soaring between Islamabad and New Delhi over Kashmir after a day of violent exchanges. 12 civilians as well as 3 soldiers were reportedly killed by Indian fire on Wednesday, the deadliest incident in weeks of border clashes. In the meantime, guns along the line of control seem far from falling silent anytime soon.
From Iraq, a horrific suicide bombing near Baghdad, killing scores of Shiite Muslims on a religious pilgrimage. It comes as ISIS is losing ground in the battle for Mosul in northern Iraq, and there is fear that loss could propel the terror group to lash out elsewhere around the globe.
The massive blast from a suicide truck bomb just south of the capital, Baghdad, leaving a charred and smoldering scene and at least 60 people dead. Many of those killed in the attack, which was quickly claimed by ISIS, were religious pilgrims from Iran in Iraq for a religious holiday, which had been seen as a potential ISIS target. ISIS has been under assault in Mosul, their last foothold in Iraq. As their so-called caliphate crumbles, they've lashed out to distract and weaken the U.S.-backed efforts to root them out. There is serious concern that as ISIS loses ground in Iraq and Syria, that they and their followers will respond with attacks in the U.S., Europe, and elsewhere as revenge and as a way to keep their twisted ideology alive.
Two very different locations. French intelligence agency headquarters in a Paris suburb and Disneyland, some 30 kilometers to the east of the capital. Both were targets the terror suspects taken into custody on Sunday appear to have been eyeing. When questioning suspects in Strasbourg, investigators seized a computer belonging to one of them and managed to access it. This was when they realized several searches had been made into high-risk sites. Apart from the intelligence agency headquarters and Disneyland, Paris's historic judicial police headquarters on the banks of the Seine, the Champs-Élysées, several metro stops, and places of worship were also searched on Google Maps. As the investigation continues, authorities are convinced they've dismantled a terror cell which had been preparing to carry out several simultaneous attacks in the style of the November 13th atrocities last year.
Bulgarian riot police deployed water cannon near hundreds of migrants who broke through a barrier in the country's largest refugee camp. They're angry about a decision by the local authority to put the camp in the southern town of Harmanli under quarantine after reports of a possible outbreak of skin disease.
In 2000, biologists studying the only timber rattlesnakes in the state of New Hampshire recorded something alarming: a population crash. The already rare animals, numbering about 40 in total, began dying in unusually large numbers. No more than 20 rattlesnakes survived, and the population remained at that new super low level 5 years later. Many of the snakes showed signs of a severe skin infection on their heads and bodies just before they died. It was an early sign of a deadly fungal disease that is now sweeping through the snakes of eastern North America. Today, at least 30 species are affected. Snake fungal disease has been documented in more than 16 U.S. states and in parts of Canada. How worried should we be? This might be the biggest challenge the snake biologists face. Finding a way to make the public care about the plight of snakes could be a necessary first step in the fight against snake fungal disease.
A truck carrying water arrives at a school in La Paz, Bolivia. A hard-hitting drought, the country's worst in 25 years, is affecting large portions of the country. Bolivia's Ministry of Education has called for schools like this one to close early to help prevent infection from spreading.
Little more than 2 weeks after Italian scientists warned climate change had put much of the country at risk of flooding, parts of the northwest have been inundated by heavy rain.
A strong earthquake in the Pacific Ocean shook the coastal region of Central America. U.S. monitoring agencies stated the quake may prompt tsunami waves as a hurricane heads for the Caribbean coasts of Nicaragua and Costa Rica. The earthquake, that measured at a magnitude of 7.0, occurred over 6 miles below the seabed, which could amplify its effect. According to the U.S. Geological Survey, the epicenter was located about 90 miles from Puerto Triunfo in El Salvador. Nicaragua's president has already declared a state of emergency due to Hurricane Otto, which reached land as a Category 2 storm.
Fueled by tinder-dry forests and high winds, wildfires tore through thousands of hectares of open country in northern Peru. Local farmers and residents said there was little time to save belongings, as firemen did what they could.
As you can see, it is not easy to deal with fire. It is our worst enemy.
Farm and pasture lands were no match against the fire. Firefighters, local volunteers and park guards battled the flames, often without enough water. Peru declared a state of emergency in parts of the country.
The wildfires started 3 days ago and are still tearing across central and northern Israel. Tens of thousands of Haifa residents have fled, walls of flame raging through central neighborhoods of Israel's third largest city. The fires are burning in multiple locations, fueled by unseasonably dry weather and strong winds. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and other officials suggested the fires may be arson, with Netanyahu saying any fire caused by arson would be considered terrorism. Hundreds of homes have been damaged, but no deaths or serious injuries were reported. Still, parts of Israel haven't seen any rain for months, and forecasters warn tinder-dry conditions are still ahead.
This video is wild, very dramatic. Double tornadoes. These are reported in Al-Khor, Qatar, and this was recorded right before Thanksgiving here in America on November the 23rd. And you can see that it's from a construction site, and somehow somebody contained themselves enough to take that footage, and it shows the tornadoes moving. One very established, and the one that's on the right, you can see plenty of debris that's spinning up on the ground. So, wow. I mean, what can you say? We don't know if anybody in this particular situation got hurt. Doesn't look like these guys were in any rush to get out of the way, but what a sight to see regardless. Whenever you have a double tornado, very, very unusual. And whether they're single or double tornadoes, remember, they all stem from supercell thunderstorms.
Christ! Mighty! I got it, Sam. I got it on. Something happened, eh?
Nice. Christmas came early for Lee Haas, delivered just in time.
I thought, we got to do something. We got to do something. We can't let a human being live like this. When I first delivered to him.
2 months ago, Domino's driver Angela Wynn made her weekly delivery to Lee.
Good morning, Lee.
He was living in a 10-foot trailer. No heat, no plumbing, no electricity. After the death of his son, he'd given up.
We'll keep you warm this winter and loved.
Wynn had enough.
There's no way somebody can live like that and be fine. So you just step in and you do what you gotta do.
So she turned to the internet, starting a Facebook page and GoFundMe site for Lee, hoping to help a man with nowhere to go.
We got donations from as far as Australia.
$32,000 later.
Are you ready to come home?
They bought Lee a new home. This, the first time Lee has seen his new trailer.
You remember when this started? Yeah. I remember I promised you we were going to help you.
Inside, volunteers meet the man they vowed to help for the very first time.
It's wonderful. I'm so grateful for the people doing this. Oh.
Everything inside, furnished by the community.
We got groceries for you already.
Oh, wow.
You're not going to go hungry.
This place is big.
This is your bathroom. Fully stocked as well.
That's a beauty.
A new bedroom, big enough to fit his old trailer.
It's for every single one of us enjoyed doing this. This ain't all for Lee. We all benefited.
Above the bed, a reminder of what matters.
And I love them. I'm very grateful. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, we love you.
Christmas came early for Lee.
And they shouted out with glee, whoopee!
Thanks to now extended family.
You'll go down in history.
This is home for the holidays.